Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. All glories to the Prabhupada and Vishnu Pada Paramahansa Parabhakacharya Sasi. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ram Vishnu Pada Paramahansa Parabhakacharya Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Pad Ki Jai. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Radha Damodar. Haribol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This morning we're reading from Srimad Bhagwatam, Canto 4, Chapter 9, Dhruva Maharaj returns home. Savai Diya Yoga Vipaka Tivraya. Savai Diya Yoga Vipaka Tivraya. Hirt Padma Kose Svuritam Tadit Prabham. Tirohitam Sahasavopalakshya. Bahistitam Tadavastam Tadarsha. Savai Diya Yoga Vipikativyaya. Hirt Padma Kose Svuritam Tadit Prabham. Tirohitam Sahasaiva Palakshya. Bahistitam Tadavastam Tadarsha. Sa Dhruva Maharaj. Vai also Diya by meditation. Yoga Vipaka Tivraya on account of mature realization of the yogic process. Hirt, the heart, Padma Kose, on the lotus of Sfuritam, manifested, Tadit Prabham, brilliant like lightning, Tirohitam, having disappeared, Sahasa, all of a sudden, Eva, also, Upalaksha, by observing, Bahistitam, externally situated, Tadasvatam, in the same posture, Dadarsha was able to see. Translation: the form of the Lord, which was brilliant like lightning, and in which Dhruva Maharaj, in his mature yogic process, was fully absorbed in meditation, all of a sudden disappeared. Then Dhruva was perturbed, and his meditation broke. But as soon as he opened his eyes, he saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead personally present, just as he had been seeing the Lord in his heart. Purport: because of his mature position in yogic meditation, Dhruva Maharaj was constantly observing the form of the personality of Godhead within his heart. But all of a sudden, when the Supreme Personality disappeared from his heart, he thought he had lost him. Dhruva Maharaj was perturbed, but upon opening his eyes and breaking his meditation, he saw the same form of the Lord before him. In the Brahma Samhita, it is said, Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena, a saintly person who has developed love of Godhead by devotional service, always sees the Lord's transcendental form of Shamsundar. This Shamsundar form of the Lord within the heart of a devotee is not imaginary. When a devotee becomes mature in his prosecution of devotional service, he sees face to face the same Shamsundar he has thought of during the entire course of his devotional service. Since the Supreme Lord is absolute, the form within the heart of a devotee, the form in the temple, and the original form in Vaikuntha, Vrindavan Dham, are all the same. They are non-different from one another. So this is a very important verse which gives us a lot of information about devotional service in the verse and in the purport. Dhruva Maharaj was a very pure devotee, and he was able to see the Lord not only in his heart, but face to face. So we must have faith that the process ends in a similar result. In the Bhagwatam, it says, Srinvatam Svakata Krishna Punya Sravana Kirtana. Hidya Anta Sto Hyabhadrani Vidinoti Suhart Satam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of truthful devotees, cleanses the desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee, who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. So this is the secret of advancing in devotional service. One must hear the messages. How must one hear the messages? In what frame of mind? Can anyone say? What frame of mind one must hear Srimad Bhagavatam? Submissively, so that it enters into your heart. You get the full benefit of hearing the sloka. If you don't hear in the right frame of mind, you won't make progress. But Dhruva Maharaj was able to see the Lord not only in his heart, but directly in front of him, because he was completely purified. Devotees in the line of Lord Chaitanya are called Rupanugas, because we follow the teachings of Rupa Goswami, who was a disciple of Lord Chaitanya and directly heard from Lord Chaitanya the processes of devotional service. So Rupa Goswami says that in order to see Krishna, one must be completely pure. So that is the goal that we have in our devotional life, to purify all our material desires. There are so many things, the tongue, the senses, the mind, all of them have to be spiritualized to become completely pure. Even, not that one has to become a sannyasi, one can be a householder and have Krishna-conscious children, and thus engage the senses in the service of the Lord. So it's open to everyone. But the process is not immediate. It takes time, and one has to have faith in the process and continue it, regardless of difficulties that may occur. One must not let it deter from continuing one's devotional service to become completely fixed on the form of Sham Sundar, like Dhruva Maharaj. And in the Nectar of Instruction, Rupa Goswami explains to us, how to purify the senses. Right? We purify the tongue by always talking about Krishna, by taking Krishna prasadam. Not to what we require. We shouldn't, do it like great philosophers have said, everything in moderation. So we take prasadam in moderation, that satisfies the tongue. And then we satisfy the eyes by always seeing the deity in the temple. This we engages the eyes. We engage the touch in chanting japa on Tulsi. In this way, we spiritualize all of our activities in Krishna consciousness. And we worship the pure devotee to get his mercy, to help us advance in spiritual life. So this is the process of Krishna consciousness. And it's very nice. We engage our hearing in hearing the glories of the Lord, in hearing the verses of Srimad Bhagwatam, as just said in this verse. So one just has to continue with the process and not lose faith. And eventually, like Dhruva Maharaj, not only will Krishna be in our heart, but he will also be in front of us. And that's the ultimate desire. But in order to achieve that, we must have the mercy of the pure devotee, because especially today's society is so contaminated that even with the best upbringing, we're subject to contamination, just by opening our phone. So many bad things come on the phone. So one must really be very cautious. Spiritual life, they say, is like a knife's edge. You have to be very cautious. You make the wrong choice, and you can go off the path that Srila Prabhupada is defining for us. So We must follow great souls like Dhruva Maharaj, like Srila Prabhupada, like all the disciples. That's why we have the disciplic succession, because these are the great souls that have tread this path before us and set an example for us to follow. And if you traveled with Srila Prabhupada, he was always chanting on his beats. He was always reading Srimad Bhagwatam, Krishna Katha, and always talking Krishna Katha about Krishna. This is the book Bhagwatam, and Srila Prabhupada is the person Bhagwatam. So we are very fortunate that both of them have come before us to set an example. Now you may not have Prabhupada's personal association in his physical form, but we have his Vani in the form of his books. And that's just as potent, or even more so, because he put so much effort and was so determined to translate these books. In the middle of the night when we were all sleeping, he was doing Krishna's work. This is the example that he set for us. So we may not be able to achieve that level, but we can try to do the best, to be the best that we can be in terms of prosecuting Krishna consciousness. And it's not always easy. Like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, the mind is hard to control like wild horses sometimes. So one always has to bring it back to Krishna. If it wanders, bring it back. We're not perfect, so sometimes it may wander. But we have the power, the free will, to bring it back to Krishna, back to Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet. And that's the beauty of Krishna consciousness. Even Dhruva Maharaj became worried when Krishna disappeared from his heart. But he had acted in such a way that Krishna wanted to see him. So Krishna removed himself from his heart and appeared in front of him personally. That should be our desire, not to jump ahead, but to act in such a way that Krishna also wants to appear for us, that Srila Prabhupada wants to appear for us and guide us, into the activities of the spiritual activities. I mean, we don't know what are spiritual activities because we're stuck in this material world. So we need a guide. We're spiritually blind, but Srila Prabhupada is opening our eyes. Creating temples where no temples existed, creating Gaur Arti where no Arti existed, and allowing us to enter into that spiritual realm that he has made possible for us. And it's so gratifying to see devotees are taking it seriously all over the world, not only in India, but in Russia, in Europe, in America, maybe to a lesser degree. But the holy name has its method, and now it's being heard all over the world through the media that millions and millions of people are listening to. So everyone is getting an opportunity to engage themselves in spiritual life. And Prabhupada has taught us all of these things of taking care of the deities. They're so beautiful that they really engage our mind, in spiritual activities. So this is his mercy, which he's bestowing more and more, as his potency advances throughout the world. when I was traveling with Srila Prabhupada in Malaysia, so many people used to come to see him, and Prabhupada was so happy to preach. In fact, he was sitting nicely in India, and he left India to come to Malaysia. And, he went from city to city at great personal hardship just to spread this message of Krishna consciousness. So we should also try to, take up that challenge to, serve Prabhupada in ways that make him happy and satisfied, which is mostly in the preaching realm. Like someone who was serving his personal body, he would try to convince them to go and preach. He would send them to different places in the world. Or sometimes he would say to devotees, we need to send someone to Hong Kong who is volunteering, or Malaysia who is volunteering. And not everyone would. Even his disciples, would hold back. But some devotees, like Gopal Prabhu, who's in Vrindavan now, he came to join me in Malaysia. Hanuman and Amoga also came. So, we have to be willing to try and satisfy the spiritual master. When he wanted someone to go to Africa, he asked Brahmananda, and Brahmananda went. And now we have so many devotees in Africa. It's expanding very rapidly. So this is the process. Even in India, we have places where Krishna consciousness is not that known. In fact, Maharaj, Guru Prasad Maharaj, was going to visit Manipur, which is very, very distant from here and isolated. And we're trying to spread Krishna consciousness in areas like that to make our spiritual master happy. So this is the process of Krishna consciousness. And it's a joyful process. As one advances, one becomes joyful because one is associating with Krishna. And as we progress, that revelation of Krishna and his name becomes manifest more and more, gradually. Like starting sweet rice, it doesn't happen immediately. It takes time. So the holy name, as Bhakti Vinod, he so eloquently says in all the bhajans that he wrote to guide us in Krishna consciousness, express the importance of the holy name, that we should try and chant in a humble state of mind, as Lord Chaitanya said, being more humble than the blade of grass, to get the Lord's mercy, to get the Lord to reveal. We're chanting his name, but it's not fully revealed to us until we can chant it purely and develop an eagerness to see Krishna, an eagerness to experience the holy name. And how do we get that eagerness? We get it by the mercy of the pure devotee who cleanses our mind and engages us in Krishna's service, in the service of the holy name. So this is what Hare Krishna mantra is so powerful. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And we are blessed because we are receiving this mantra in disciplic succession with the full potency that Krishna first delivered it. And it's unbroken disciplic succession. But so we should take, like Prabhupada says, we should take this advantage of this great opportunity. It is the most important thing we have to do in our life. And I'm sure Prabhupada is pleased that you're all, engaged in the service. Anyone have any questions? Mm-hmm.
So how to build that very faith in initial terms to last it longer?
You have to pray to Krishna for that. Pray to Srila Prabhupada, and that will come. But the important thing is to continue the process. I mean, if you didn't get some taste, you wouldn't be here. So you get some taste, but you want to increase it. So that, takes time. So one has to put in the time, and then, be sincere. Try to increase your desire to serve Krishna. Sometimes one will go through periods where, you're not feeling it so much, but you have to have faith that the process will work, to continue, and then, things will improve over time. One will get, as we stir the sweet rice, it gets thicker and thicker. So gradually, it will come. And, if you participate, just think about that think that you are in the spiritual world, you're not in the material world. When you realize that all the associates of Lord Chaitanya are actually present, to help you, that can also help you develop that Krishna, love of Prabhupada. It's not always easy, but we've been stuck in this material world so long, it's hard to extricate ourselves, even after we have been given this great knowledge. Right now it's theoretical. We have to make it happen, just as Dhruva Maharaj meditated within his heart, but then Krishna, appeared to him right in front of him. Any other questions?
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. How to become a Samdarsina? Sometimes we treat like a senior as a very good, but as a junior and equal, we treat like some misbehaving. So how to treat a Pandita Samdarsina?
How to what?
He's saying how to treat everyone as Samdarshi, equal.
Mm-hmm.
Seniors we generally deal with respect, but
Mm-hmm.
juniors and equal we generally disrespect or don't give that much respect. So how to be equi-biased with everyone?
Well, we were all trying to serve Srila Prabhupada, so we were all connected. So we should, Vaishnavas help each other to, advance in devotional service. So one should, you see someone is having problems, you can help them. And then Prabhupada will appreciate that. He was always concerned about that. Sometimes we neglect our God brothers, but caring for your God, that's Prabhupada's children. So you should try and think what will satisfy my spiritual master. And to act accordingly. Compassion. Srila Prabhupada had compassion. That's why he came to us. So we should also have developed compassion. And if one's not feeling it, one should do it anyway out of duty. So if one doesn't feel that compassion to do it, one can do it out of duty. You know, you can justify it out of duty and satisfy your mind. Then the compassion will come. But it's a great science. And, Srila Prabhupada was so merciful. When he was here, it was easier in some way, you know, because we had his example, and you know, all his activities kept our attention. So we need to focus on his teachings, on his books. That's why he gave them to us. You know, sometimes we have to kick our mind to focus, you know, and reject, you know, the external diversions where Maya tries to get us trapped into, you know, some form of sense gratification, even, you know, mental. You know, we have to try and focus on the important things in life. I mean, material is temporary. I mean, that's easy to understand because everyone knows you can't take whatever material thing you do will be destroyed at the time your body dies, and everybody dies. So, better to work on your spiritual assets, which will stay with you, you know, in your next life and in your eternal life. Haribo, all glory to Prabhupada.
One question.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the lecture. So my question is,
Speak loud.
we see fault in others. We don't tell them. My question is, we see fault in others. We don't tell them early, but we think in mind. So how to decrease that?
What was your question?
He's saying that we find fault in others.
Mm-hmm.
We may not orally tell them about their faults,
Mm-hmm.
but we mentally think about that.
Mm-hmm.
So how to reduce that, even mentally, how to get rid of that, even mentally thinking of faults in others, getting rid of the fault finding mentality.
Mm-hmm. Well, always think about yourself. You know, we're all committed so many sinful activities in this life. So there's a saying in English, about throwing stones. Does anyone know that saying? In glass houses? You know, don't, you know, look at yourself first, you know, before you criticize others. If you are faultless, I think Jesus said, let he who is faultless throw the first stone. You know, so if you think you're perfect, you know, so one has to be humble. And sometimes you can find a way to communicate to someone respectfully. You know, it's called constructive criticism. When you're explaining something to them to help them, not to put them down. So that's kind of an art. You have to develop your diplomatic skills in communicating with people. Because nowadays people take offense so easily. So it's not easy. Sometimes you can ask the person in charge if there's some particular thing that's being done that you think is wrong, then he can speak to everyone about it and not have to single out one person. You know what I mean? So that person is not embarrassed. But he can learn from that opportunity.
Thank you.
But you are the future of this movement, so you must learn all these things so you can push this movement on and satisfy Srila Prabhupada. So you have a big, important responsibility on your shoulders. But Krishna will help you. Prabhupada will help you. It's not impossible. We see so many devotees advancing nicely. And Krishna has given us so much nice facilities in India, especially. We have Mayapur, Vrindavan, Bombay, so many beautiful temples, and just inspiring, to develop our love of God, love of Krishna, love of the spiritual master, love of the pure devotee. It's all about love. Prabhupada said the day he met his spiritual master, he learned the meaning of love. Because the love that we get in the material world is only related to our body, not to our soul. Who's pushing for our soul to be freed from this material contamination? Srila Prabhupada. So that's true love. So understanding the difference between true love and temporary love is important. And that will give us more impetus, motivation to develop our Krishna consciousness and advance. Lord Chaitanya, if you read the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's so many examples of how Vaishnavas interact, real Vaishnavas interact with each other with great love and respect and affection. That's very important. Get the blessings of the Vaishnavas to advance in devotional service. So read how they treated each other, how Vaishnavas treated each other. And it's really eye-opening, it really, because we're in that line, Rupanugas. So Vaishnav culture is so nice. I've met so many nice devotees in Delhi. I see that Krishna consciousness is very strong. And families, where the whole family is engaged, the whole family wears tilak, engaged in worship in their home and outside as well, and inviting advanced devotees to come and stay with them. This is Vedic culture. So Prabhupada is reestablishing that Vedic culture all over India. And even the government is taking notice and encouraging it to some degree, as far as possible. There are limitations to what they can do, but Krishna consciousness is so nice. We distribute so much prasadam. to make the temples available to teach the Vedic culture. So this is Vedic culture. We are reestablishing the real Dharma, Sanatana Dharma, the original version as it is, not as someone changed it, to suit their purposes. So, and it includes everyone. It's very inclusive, not like only Brahmins or only certain class, wealthy people can participate, but even the poorest person can participate. And it's so nice to see the Food for Life program distributing prasad. So we not only take care of their material needs, to live, but we give them that spiritual knowledge which is missing in today's society. So it's such a great movement, and we have to take these banners seriously. What does yellow mean? Does that mean they're in training?
Yeah, they are pre-brahmachari.
So you have to come to the next level as soon as possible. Turn yellow to orange or white, whichever you want to pursue. But doesn't matter. Devotees come in all different genres, from householder to retired to brahmachari to sannyasi, but we all have the same goal. So we all must work together. Srila Prabhupada was very concerned that his disciples work cooperatively to spread this movement, because then it'll be effective. If we have personal ambition, then that will prevent us from advancing very far. Prabhupada used to say that it's poisonous. But if we want to serve together, our beloved spiritual master, founder, Acharya Srila Prabhupada, then he will be very satisfied with us. And he will bless us with spiritual knowledge and advancement in spiritual life. Prabhupada's area was the whole world, so don't think it's impossible. Everything is possible for Krishna, he used to say. He used to dream big, he used to think big. We think very small what can be accomplished, because we don't know Krishna's greatness like Srila Prabhupada does. But all these things that were once only a dream, like the temple in Bombay, like the headquarters in Mayapur, now they're a reality. So you see that. So, if you're looking for what's real, for evidence that it's real, it's there. Because these are great, very great accomplishments that are not possible for an ordinary human being. So the evidence is there. So we have to take that evidence and move forward in our own spiritual life to become part of that and accomplish great things for Krishna and Srila Prabhupada and our spiritual master. Some people, they like to use, sometimes their problems develop with one particular devotee or another, and they like to use that. But that doesn't invalidate anything. There's always problems, but we have to overcome those problems. That's why Srila Prabhupada is the foundation of ISKCON. He's always there to give his mercy to those who are aspiring to follow his teaching. So in that way, one can overcome, if there's some temporary issues. But one doesn't have to be initiated by Prabhupada. That's not the Parampara system. But one has to be under his umbrella of ISKCON to get his mercy. And he will always be with you. Even though you have your own spiritual master, you still have Prabhupada also. So there's more than one track. Like Prabhupada used to teach us, we have the examples of the Mahajans to follow. We have the Shastra to follow. It's a double rail. It's like a train. It has two rails, not one, where it's like tipping over. We have two rails to give us steady progress. So we have to follow those. And we have our own intelligence to look at the Shastra to judge if everything is paka, right? So we're responsible to make the right choices. And yeah, I met a gentleman yesterday, and he had been under the influence of people who, don't accept the disciplic succession, who concoct some new way to, spiritual life. Now, it's good that they say they're devoted to Prabhupada, but if you're really devoted to Prabhupada, you'll follow his instructions. You won't make up some new philosophy that Prabhupada never taught us. This is very important because some of these people are using Prabhupada's name for their own purposes. And, we have to inform the public, of the true philosophy, and not to accept some hodgepodge. But be gentle because it's difficult sometimes preaching to these people. We want to encourage them to do the right thing, but we don't want to get them discouraged from the process itself. They just have to understand the correct way. So that's an issue. There's always something. Even at the time of Lord Chaitanya, some schisms broke out between different parties. Advaita Prabhu, his sons, were concocting some different philosophy. And, various things over the period of the Gaudiya Vaishnavism, which Bhaktivinoda Thakur was instrumental in correcting and setting things on the right path. And his son, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, was also instrumental in correcting any problems. And Srila Prabhupada now took the mantle to push the movement forward in its pure form, revealing to the world, the glories of Krishna consciousness, the glories of Vrindavan, the glories of Krishna. So we just have to desire to push it forward as best we can. Everyone has strengths and weaknesses. So there's a management style that says play to your strengths. So use the things that you do best for Krishna's mission. Dovetail, engage it in Krishna's service. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, don't stop your duty, but just do it as an offering unto me. And then it will be perfected. It will be completely purified. And as one becomes completely purified, then one will be able to chant the pure names of Krishna and feel their full potency. Krishna will reveal himself to you in the sound of his name. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Bol.